Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to miamighostchronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogman, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Stories of the Supernatural, and this is part two of the interview with Allan Pacheco, Morbid Tales. Again, lengthy but super interesting interview, so hang tight, and here is
And
part
here's something
two.
else here too about Ron L. Hubbard. And this is synchronicity. Uh, Ron L. Hubbard's military career has been covered on up tremendously. And one of the stories about Ron L. Hubbard was that he was on one of these ships that sunk with all. He was like the only survivor, and that's going to be the USS Edsall. Like Edsall, but
Mm-hmm.
Edsall. Maybe I'm saying it the wrong way, pronouncing it because
Mm-hmm.
I got a twang. Um, and he was able to swim to an island, and he survived this. And this ship was commanded by a junior officer. His name was Nix. This is during World War II, and show you. And this is just a tidbit about this: that the
Right.
Japanese had so much respect for this ship that was uh, fighting against a whole squadron, just one ship, that they called it the dancing mouse because it
Okay.
was the way it was zigzagging to
Mm-hmm.
not get hit. It was under air attack, under battleship cruiser attack, etc. Here, yeah. So anyway, getting back to Parsons and Ronell Hubbard. Yeah, they were channeling all kinds of stuff, and uh, yeah, it's you got to a lot of the stuff that has been, I would say, negated about their
Mm-hmm.
true backgrounds.
Oh, no, that, and you know what? And I'm going to say that this is why a lot of people say the internet is a bad thing, but sometimes the internet is a good thing because do you think that back when, let's say, L. Ron Hubbard, he wrote Dianetics and then he basically from there, Scientology, if people would have known really what his background was, do you think it would have taken off the way it did? Because I don't think so. I think people just didn't realize that this guy was what, you know, he, nobody, in other words, nobody knew what his background was prior to him establishing Scientology.
In that era, I think you're right. But in today's era, being that it's in essence an Aleister Crowley type society of do what one wants and forget about
Yeah,
the
there is that wilt.
uh,
Yep.
yeah the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but back then I think that you're correct. And yeah, you're right. Yes.
But and then we got to throw into the mix how, for lack of, as a matter of fact, the other day I meant to tell you, which I didn't know. You remember about the Jim Jones, the thing in Guyana when
Oh yeah.
the drink the Kool Aid.
Hmm.
And you know how some things you think you heard the whole story. And the other day I was looking something up, and I found out really what precipitated him doing this. It turns out there's a guy from Congress. He's he hears because they had been out there since like less than a year or something like that. The as far as him taking the people out to Guyana.
Hmm.
Okay, so this congressman, what's his last name? Leo Ryan. Hold on a minute. He hears, or it comes to his attention. He's out of California. that there's people being held there against their will. All right. So he goes out there with some reporters and some people. Like there was one guy who his daughter had supposedly joined the cult. Like people, like family members, like saying, "Hey, my family member is either being held against their will or they've just been brainwashed." So he goes out there with a bunch of people, right? So when he goes out there, he interviews and everything is fine. So he says, if there's anybody that wants to come back with me, you can come back with me. Surprisingly, a bunch of people said, we will go back with you. Jim Jones did not like that. So this guy, he realizes, look, in other words, the plane that he had come in would not accommodate all the people that wanted to come back with him, plus the original party. All right.
Right.
But he's thinking, if I leave these poor people, they're going to get killed, or that'll be the end. That they'll change their minds or something. So what does he do? He says, I won't leave until the second airplane arrives. So he does. He gets second plane arrives, and he when they're about to take off, they drive a truck onto the landing strip, because remember, this place was in the middle of the jungle. All right. And they open fire on the plane. That's when this congressman, he gets shot and he dies. I think like Leo Ryan. That's right. I was right. Leo Ryan. Okay. They ambush him, and I think three other people died. They were shot, and a bunch of the other people just ran to the jungles. And what happened was, I guess Jim Jones realizes, that's it. I can't let these people leave, and that's when he goes back, and he orders, the thing of them to drink the Kool-Aid, which was cyanide. And they say that even now they really don't know how many of those people did it voluntarily versus the ones that were held at gunpoint and told to drink it. And of course, they found him. Same thing. Was he killed or did he shoot himself? That
Right.
kind of deal. But I had never known that really what triggered it was when this guy, Leo Ryan, went out there from California because he had heard that people were being held against their will, which was true. But this guy was such an egomaniac. He was like, man, when they get back to the United States, they're going to get interviewed, and that'll be the end of that. And he just took everybody out. I
Right.
didn't know that. As a matter of fact, there was like, yeah, I think it was him and I think a photographer. Like three or four people ended up dying there on the tarmac, or they got shot,
Yeah.
and that's how that ended up that way. Which, by the way, there were other cults out there in Guyana as well. But this is the one that's become the most famous. Which, by the way, California, I looked into it. I don't know why California is such an attractant for cults. Let me tell you. And by the way, prior, you always think of like the Mansons in the 1960s. Prior to that, there was a lot of weird cults out there in California. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, let me uh, get my name back again, the assassin,
Yes.
and pop some more balloons about
Okay,
Mr.
assassinate
Jones.
away.
Okay. All right. Now, Jones, what happened was, and there's some for our listening audience on YouTube, there
Hmm.
should be some footage of the trucks of the hitmen coming to that small little airfield, getting on out and shooting at Leo Ryan and his entourage,
Hmm.
and with the cameraman, he's filming, he gets hit, he dies, but
Right.
you're going to see that gunfight. Now,
Hmm.
what happened was, you're absolutely right that he went down there. This group was that Jones was running. His church was out of the Oakland area, if I remember correctly, and he went down to Guyana. And that way, there's less control. And I
Right.
think that River Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix were of another cult down there decades later, the
Yes.
Disciples of Christ or something to that effect.
Right.
Yeah, and so. he goes down there and Leo Ryan, and he's giving signals that some people want to leave. All right, so we're going to leave. I did not know that they're waiting for the second airplane to arrive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they show on up, and there's the gunfight, and Leo Ryan dies, etc. There's a number of people that die. Now, what happens after that is Jim Jones says, okay, it's all over with. We've got a suicide. Now, here
Mm-hmm.
is a different story behind this. Jim Jones was MK Ultra. He
Really?
was a, yes, MK Ultra for our listening audience. That's going to be a like CIA project, Black Ops, where they're going to brainwash people, not only by way of drugs, but by way of uh, money, by way of um, vocabulary, that they'll do things that they regularly wouldn't do. And that's what they get this man to be, this character, this voice, and he gets all these other people that are desperate in poverty to follow him, and he becomes this false messiah. And he's there in the jungle at this compound. All kinds of terrible things happen,
Mm-hmm.
rapes, children being molested, etc. And then at the end, when he says it's time to die, you got the Kool-Aid story. Yeah, some
Right.
of the people were there, but there was also people with guns saying you can't leave and you're
Right.
gonna. But here's the other story, that there is CIA, okay, operatives, maybe not people from Langley themselves, but people that have been bought, that
Right.
are hitmen for the CIA, that are doing the killing on in there, and that never
Wow.
comes on out. Now there is a recording there of Leo, of James Jones there that night, and he's yelling at this one guy, and the guy's name, I forget what the guy's name is. He's a CIA operative. He was there in Guyana. There's proof of all this kind of stuff. What's Tom Smith doing here? Get Tom Smith on out of here. Get Tom Smith. And his name wasn't Tom Smith. I'm just giving you
Right.
a name. And he is CIA. What's a CIA guy doing on over there, or CIA operative doing that?
Right.
And then there's also even the wife saying, "I don't think we ought to be doing this, and this is not right." And James Jones saying, "Mother, mother, mother, no, 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 no." And you hear all this moaning and all this crying in the background. It's really a chilling uh, audio. So yeah,
Okay.
it was, how do you say, mind control, to see how far we can take people to suicide, and
Let
those
me tell you
people that are
something.
not
That
going to.
that that right there is the part that I think wigs everybody out. That you think because from what I understand, yeah, maybe some were made to take the cyanide by at gunpoint, but there were
Right.
others. If you're holding a gun on somebody, that means you're with the program.
Right, and then that's one of the things about mind control with MK Ultra. How far are you going to go? How
Mm-hmm.
good was our mind control to make these people do that,
Yeah.
and to forget about survival and take the cyanide? And
Yes.
you look at there's over we still don't know the true amount. They said like 900 or to over 1,000 people died
Mm-hmm.
there at that camp. There could have been even more so. And the thing about that is that those bodies, the vast majority of them, or I've heard that all of them, were not taken back to the USA. They were taken on over to someplace in Guyana and cremated, and their ashes put on over. Why would that be? Well, this is back in 1978, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to say, well, because it's the tropics, and they're going to be decomposing real fast. Again, too, do they want to know if there's bullet wounds, or if there is, did they really take cyanide?
Right.
How many of these people did they end on up dying and having their bodies dragged and placed there? You look at those photos,
Yes.
and you look at, okay, when a person dies of cyanide, this is what happens. You don't have any oxygen in your body, so you're going to be moving about, kind of like how a dog dies sometimes when it's a bad injection of
Right.
you got to put him away,
Right.
and the dog is like he has like rabies, and how he moves and how he dies. That's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be a massive amount and just kill him. Well,
Right.
anyway, you look at all these bodies there from the photos of these bloated bodies, and there's hands over a person's back, over another person's back, as if they're all, brotherhood,
Yeah, like they
sisterhood,
just dropped
familyhood.
dead. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I,
that's not the way it works. That's a posed photo. You see, there's so much out there. It's in our right in front of us, and it's fake, and we don't realize it because well, okay, they died this way. No, people don't die that way.
Right.
Not from cyanide. The people that were the operatives that were watching this, that were they came and did the bodies that
Mm-hmm.
night and put them in place, so it made it look like it was just this. Everybody drank the Kool-Aid.
Sure. Right. They took the
And there's
Kool-Aid and
so many
just
things. Yeah, there's so many things out there in front of us that are paused, that are saying, okay, this is real, and this is the way it was, and the people buy it because they don't have analytical thinking process of because it's been kicked out of them from junior high and high school. For example, you look at and the bloodlessness in some of our leaders
mm-hmm.
to get us into wars
Yes.
in the Middle East, etc. And they've never been shot at. They've never seen anybody die. And when people
Right.
die from gunshot, I mean, if it's a shot to the head or a shot to the heart or whatever, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
a like a Raggedy Andy type, where the here in these parts people live in trailers, some of them, and they have like these rags, and they'll make a doll out of it, and they'll play with their dog. And wherever you leave that Raggedy Andy doll, that's the way it's upside down or halfway upside down, etc. That's the way people die if they've been killed right away. But other people have slow wounds. I mean, they die grasping for air, or grasping at something, or pushing away. And you look at the Jim Jones, that's too choreographed.
And
Look
that's
at
the
that. Look at
thing. Most
yeah,
people, I imagine, especially back then, did not know what you just described, Alan, as far as like, hey, if you've taken cyanide, you're going to be your death, those last moments, you're not, like you said, you're not going to be there like, let me put my arm over the next person next to me kind of deal.
yeah.
Most people wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at a lot of these posed photos of death. No, that's not the way people die in combat. Oh, here's a classic example. I mean, you look at 9/11 and the building going down, number 7, and you say to yourself, okay, that's a controlled blast, and you're going to say that they were able to put the dynamite in there in just one day and pull it on, or 9/11, the two towers coming on down, bang, 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 bang. Buildings
Right.
do not collapse that way. Yeah, there's
That's
so
what that's what
many.
a lot of people. What was this? A matter of fact, was it? I had heard this from before, but God, what was it that I was listening to you today or yesterday about the owner of the building coincidentally takes out terrorism insurance on his property, on his commercial property. I
Right,
mean,
and
talk
and
about, that's pretty
yeah,
lucky.
yeah, okay. Again, too, you've got the very, very wealthy, the upper crust, the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big monopoly game, or I don't know. Think of old of what is it, the Parker Brothers game of Risk or whatever,
Right.
and we're just pawns on the table. Here's something on else here too. I mean, you think about the stupidity, the ignorance of the American public here. We still don't know anything about that assassin there in Butler, Pennsylvania, who
Oh
he was
man, let me tell you
talking
something,
to.
that a lot of people are. You look at that and it's like, and I think well, people I think are waking up a lot more than they were before, Alan. I think the majority before would like say, "Oh no," In other words, it would take the official version or the official narrative. Now people are questioning it. It's like I was saying about the internet, because and it's like it's very it's insulting. How's that? That they think that I'm sure there's people out there that don't care one way or the other, but that the majority of Americans are going to be so stupid that they're not going to question what's going on. And I think it's very insulting. And they're just going to be like, nope, nothing else to see here. Nope, nope. And which, by the
Yeah,
way, they've discovered recently that this guy, this young man, Thomas Crooks, was apparently into weird stuff. All right, that there was something going on with this kid in his head, no doubt about
yeah,
it. But that he, like you said, how they talk about MK Ultra, or whether it's manipulation of their mind, or I don't know exactly what verbiage to use, but that something was going on there, absolutely. And then they, no, his nobody's ever questioned his parents or asked his parents, hey, did you realize your son was doing this or was going in that direction? Nope. They lawyered up. Nobody's ever talked to them. That was the end of that.
right.
I don't.
And you would think that after, but well, I would think, okay, but I'm giving the American public too much
Oh,
credit. I mean, there's
I'm
people
being
that
more.
there's 50% of the people that will say, okay, this is not right, but okay, but you look at, for example, 9/11. You have all these cameras on the Pentagon. You have all these cameras from gas
Uh-huh.
stations, etc., and you cannot find any film of a passenger jet crashing on into the Pentagon except for a small, maybe 1 second blurb of something
Exactly.
hitting the Pentagon. Was that really a plane, or was that a exocet type missile? Or here's something on else too. I mean, you think to yourself, after all of what's gone on with the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, that people would say, well, okay, there's something wrong here. Why are we going the same way with the crooks as we're doing with RFK and JFK? That it was
Right.
the lone gunman, Oswald. There's no way. I'm going to tell you something on else here, too, about Oswald. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he had a Carcano, and I had a I bought a Carcano, and I wanted to do it. I was at a place where I could do my own sniping and do all,
Mm-hmm.
the exact type of whatever it was. And, um, okay, I'm going to tell you something here. And you can believe it or not. Okay, I'm a little bit old. Okay. Okay. I'm more than a little bit old. Anyway, I tied a course record a couple of years ago with shooting. But so I know what I'm talking about.
Go
And
ahead. Hit it.
okay, so anyway, so he's going to be shooting through a tree, 3 shots, and a Carcano is in essence a piece of junk. And even if you hit a twig or a leaf or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that can make that bullet just go a little bit on off. And you're going to tell me that he was able to hit 2 of his 3 shots? There's no way in that amount of time, and what you have with a bolt action type of rifle. No, he was JFK. The kill shot came from the front, from the grassy
Mm-hmm.
knoll,
Right.
and yeah, and it wasn't. If you look at, don't believe your lying eyes. If you see the Zapruder film, you can see JFK grabbing his throat because he got hit in the throat. Now, was it from the back, from the front? Who knows what? But his cheeks are filled on up, and you see Jackie looking to her right at her husband there, and he's there, and they say that because he was his brace or whatever it was, and if he couldn't go down from the impact of the first shot, but the second bang, it hits him in the head, and you say to yourself, wow. Even a third grader, even a first grader is going to say that shot did not come from the back; it came from the front, from an angle, and took out his brain. But everybody's going to say, "Oh no, no, the media. It was the lone gunman." And here's something else about MK Ultra. Okay, when Ruby kills Oswald, and this was. I'm not going to date myself anymore. I'll just say, okay, are you there now? Okay. Well, anyway, when that happens, he shoots. He's in. They bring the so-called assassin Oswald on out of and they're going to take him into this car. They're going to take him to another place. He's in the garage there. There's cameramen, there's police, etc. here. Ruby comes on up, and he takes out a pistol and shoots Oswald. Bang, bang, bang. And his excuse later on is because he wanted revenge for Jackie. He didn't want this to go to trial, etc. on over here. Here is the inside baseball. When he ended on up getting manhandled and everything on else, he
Mm-hmm.
looks around and he says, "Hey, where am I? What am I doing here?" And he knew some of the police officers there because Ruby operated a strip club,
Right,
mafia
right, right.
club
Yeah.
there in Dallas. So he knew some of the corrupt officers. So he's going to say, "Hey, what am I doing here? What am I?" Okay, again, MK Ultra. You see what I'm talking about?
Right.
He was okay. Yeah, take him. Press his button, and he's going to go take out Oswald because Oswald is smart enough to figure out that, as Oswald said, that he's the patsy, and he's going to tell everybody what's going on here. So we got to silence him.
Well, have you heard of the babushka lady?
Yes, yes, I have,
Isn't
and
that great that they've never found out she's smart? She was like, if they can kill a president, I'm out of here. She must have
right,
seen something, but she was filming it or taking a photograph. I'm not sure what it is,
right.
but she stayed out of. She was like went down, like she disappeared.
Tell the people that are listening, and I got some more inside baseball or idea about the babushka lady.
Well, no, the thing was they called her the babushka lady because she had that scarf around, back in the 60s, tied under her chin kind of deal. All right. And nobody, she was right there. As the car's going down, she was like right next to it. And I don't know if she was either photographing it or filming it or something, one of those handhelds.
Yes,
And from what you could see, there's always the back of her. That's why nobody really knows what she looks like. And they've never been able to find out who she is, and she never came forward. In other words, she could have come forward and said, "Look, I was standing right there. This is what I saw." This lady was smart enough to realize she saw something there. That, in other words, she realized this was not what they put out in the press, and
right.
she says,
Okay,
"I'm not going to be the one that's going to disclose this because I'm going to be pushing up daisies if I do."
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it a different twist on over here.
Go ahead.
Okay, for the listening audience, okay, JFK and the convertible is coming on down, and it's there in Dealey Plaza. There's people on the sidewalk watching the president. They're waving
Mm-hmm.
to him, and there's some gunshots. In on the sidewalk, there is this woman. We call her the babushka lady. The babushka is a Russian term for a scarf that they're going to wear around the head and tied up around the chin on over here. If I remember correctly, she's going to be wearing a red scarf on over there. Okay, now she is taking photos, or she's got something there. We're not really too sure what it is, and she's right there in front of when the action happens, when the death shot hits JFK.
Right.
Okay, now, all right. You're thinking that she saw something and she was smart enough to not go to the police,
And say, "This is
etc.,
what I saw, or this is what I
because
filmed
she
or
was
photographed or
because she's going
whatever."
to be eliminated.
Right.
I'm going to go a different way. I don't think it was because she was not afraid of pushing up daisies, because American society was more patriotic back in those
Patriotic,
days.
yes.
I'm going to say that she was part of the assassination.
You
If you
think?
look at her, she's a very big, strong woman. Was
Yes.
that a man disguised as a female, or as they say now, a man in
Wow. I
drag?
hadn't thought of that.
Yes. And look at what she's wearing. Is she now again? This is a zillion years ago. I mean, this is
Right.
going from I did the Warren Report, which is a great novel. But I'm going from like the over my memory from the old Life magazines, etc. And look,
Mm-hmm.
I think she's wearing a red scarf. If you could look it up on the computer, that'd be great.
I'm
But
looking
anyway,
at it. No, it looks. Let me see. It looks like it looks like because some of these pictures it look like either white or floral.
okay.
Okay.
Well, okay, well then that blows one of my theories. I was going to say if it was a red scarf and she's there, isn't that a point of okay for sighting? Okay, this is where she's going to be at. Even if she's not wearing a red scarf, you see this woman how big she is, and
Yes,
look at
she
does she
is.
look does she look female? She doesn't look female to me.
No, she's well. That's because right next, like a few feet away from her are two women. One of the women is wearing a red coat. But you're right.
Okay,
If you look at those two women that are standing next to her, even though they have coats, because obviously this is late November when this happened, everybody has a coat on. I guess it was the weather. But yes, when you do look at her, you assume she's older because of the scarf and because, like you said, she's thick waisted. So you're assuming, okay, this is an older woman. But you really never see her face in order to
right,
say that. She's
yeah,
wearing a dress with a coat and she's got that scarf. And in the picture, which is the Sapruta film, she's got her back turned. In other
right,
words, she's
yeah.
so you never get a chance to see her face one way or
Yeah,
the other.
yeah, and the way that she's looking, the way she has her stance and everything,
Mm-hmm.
it kind
Yes.
of and this okay again too. This from I guess what 49 years ago, there used to be a show called uh, Barney Miller,
I remember
and
that.
I remember Max Gale, one of the detectives. It was a comedy series in New York City. He had to dress in drag and female costume to try to get a mugger to attack. a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and so they could arrest. And I always thought to myself, okay, that's the same type of how to say bulk that you're going to have as a man dressed as a woman there. And if it is a female, and she's still alive, I apologize,
No,
and
I
very
doubt it. I
beautiful,
mean, if that
and
was the case, no, I think
yeah,
she.
but I do think that she's part of the assassination team because look at how she stands on out. How come she didn't go forward? She has the whole view of what's going on,
Yes.
and how can they never ever find a woman that's that stout there in Dallas? I mean, she stands on out that she's quite the striking woman there, and they don't find her, and she doesn't come forward. Now you're going
No.
to say, oh well, there's all these other stories. Well, this woman and she was her, and she gave me some film or this and that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't wash. And I think she was part of the hit team. Now you look at something on else. Oh, also, there's two other guys there that are later on
Mm-hmm.
after the assassination, and they sit down on the curb. And one is Anglo-Saxon, one is Latino, but he's cafe castaño skin. Are you familiar with that photo?
I'm looking at. Yes, I see that. Yes.
Okay, and look at one. Looks like he has, or the both double. One looks like he has like a walkie-talkie, a small handheld communicator.
Okay. All right. No, I haven't come across it. But some of these pictures that I'm seeing, unfortunately, the figures, the angle that they were taken from is from far away. In other words, if you let me see. Yes, I see that. Wait a minute.
Okay,
Okay,
those
no.
two men. All right. Now you look at that, and that dark-complected guy
Mm-hmm.
looks like the guy that was also in the RFK assassination, CIA connection there.
Wow.
And I forgot what the guy's uh, name is, Hispanic name. Maybe you can. Anyway, that is. But getting back to the babushka lady. Now that you have told you that, don't you think she looks too
Yes.
masculine?
Yes. I mean, like I said, I just assumed that she looked that way, which, by the way, people don't realize that back then, especially on windy days, women would wear that scarf around their head like a babushka and tied under their chin. You look at in the 60s, that was common, but yes, you're right about what you're saying. I never looked at that. I just looked at her as like some older lady who's there, you know.
And compare her body build to all the other women there.
Yes, there's two women close by her, like
Yeah,
maybe 10 feet, 12 feet away from her. And no, you could tell just by looking at them
yeah.
that
And
even
here's
though they
some.
had coats on, that yeah, they're
Yeah,
feminine. Yeah.
and yeah, and then here's something on else here too that's about more conspiracy. He went into a trap, into a kill zone there.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy there that right before the shooting starts, or he has an umbrella and he opens and closes his umbrella. The Umbrella Man. Have you heard about that?
No, no, go ahead.
Okay. Now, who is going to be dressed in a suit with an umbrella and opening it and closing it? Well, okay. Let's say he's not wearing a suit, but he has an umbrella. Who's going to open it and close it? Okay, there. Now, his excuse was, or the excuse that they gave, they said, oh, he came on in and we vetted him, and the reason that he was there with the umbrella and he opened and closed it as JFK's car was passing by and the gunshots happened was because he was protesting that his father, Joe Kennedy Sr., who financed JFK's, run for president, etc., and
Right.
the Senate, was like Neville Chamberlain, and was an appeaser to Hitler. And Neville Chamberlain had an umbrella, so he's mimicking Neville Chamberlain with the umbrella. Neville Chamberlain was the premier, the UK's leader at
Mm-hmm.
the start of World War II, and then Churchill came on over and took on over. And you say to yourself, what? This
Right. That's
you have he's opening and closing an umbrella, and you're going to say that he's doing that as a protest to Joe Kennedy Sr.
I know that's kind
Versus
of far-fetched.
yeah, I know. Well, he's opening the umbrella, he's closing the umbrella. Is that not a signal? Open fire?
Yes, it could be. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, and you have that, and you have the crossfire of what's going there. And here's something on else here too about Dealey Plaza, and we touched on this just a little bit. And I'm always into what's hidden in plain sight. And we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the 33, the number 33 and its magic,
Yes.
and the 33 degrees of the Masonic temple. The
Mm-hmm.
33rd is the Old Boys Network. It's not through deeds of working at Shriner hospitals and burnt wards. It's whatever. What Okay, you have seconds and minutes off of 33, off of 33rd degree meridian. It comes through the USA.
Right.
And if you go with the GPS or whatever, what is Dallas? What is Dealey Plaza? It's on the 33rd
Really?
meridian. Yes.
That's interesting.
It's all part of in other words, a sinister,
You know
satanic cult.
that Disney has that Club 33. Now that you say that,
Right. Yeah, and
yes.
that's the only club. It's top secret, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the only club that you can drink liquor in Disneyland, Club 33.
Right.
And you think about this invisible hand, Illuminati, etc. It's all linked with black magic of worshiping the evil one of what's going on. Same thing with like Jeffrey Epstein and what he was doing, and other types of people who have made deals for power and to lead this country. And JFK was the last. I mean, if you look at what JFK wanted, he wanted a treaty with the USSR, which is now modern day Russia. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted the end of the Cold War. He wanted disclosure about Area 51. He didn't want us to get into any wars. Right away after he died, we had our big first buildup of troops to, or first
Yeah,
send
for
off of troops
Vietnam.
to Vietnam. Yeah, and yeah, so that's what this was all
And
about.
I've
They
also
took him out.
heard, Alan, and you tell me that part of the, well, how's this? That the one that pushed us along was Lyndon Johnson, his VP, the one that took over. But
Right.
that part of the reason that people behind the scenes went along with the Lyndon, Johnson program was that they were saying that Kennedy was going to disclose UFO secrets to USSR.
Hmm.
In other words, that was like, if they were, if because let's face it, Lyndon Johnson couldn't have pulled this off unless he had people be, in the government that were, going along with the program.
Right.
And in their case, their concern was the disclosure of what we really don't know at this point. And it wasn't disclosure; it was disclosure to the Russians, which back then was like, oh, no, you can't do that.
Well, yeah, the thing about that was he wanted peace between us and the Russians. And right,
Yes.
yeah, what we have right now, and I give Trump credit for this, is he's trying to get Russia to become allies with us. There's no reason that we should be enemies with Russia.
Yeah.
And with the Ukraine, well, the CIA set up Zelensky, etc. On and on. It's a CIA operation there in the Ukraine. Anyway, Kennedy wanted to have peace with us. He had seen combat. Khrushchev had seen combat there in southern Russia,
Right.
the Stalingrad front. Okay, I'm probably saying his name the wrong way. Khrushchev, whatever, the premier of the Soviet Union. All right, and he wants all this other stuff to happen, and they said we can't do that, and we got to take him on out. And LBJ was the sold out person who says, okay,
Sure.
you want a deal? I'll do this. I'll do that. Now,
Yeah.
here's something on else here too. And I don't know if I told you this before because through our years of doing radio programs,
Mm-hmm.
and I do a lot. I forget about what I tell you if I told on another show, etc. Here. Okay, in that uh, limousine, the
Right.
governor of Texas is his name is John Connally. Is there with JFK?
Right.
Okay. Now, did this story?
No, no, no. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Well, to begin with, JFK goes to Texas, and he wants to uh, gain votes for the upcoming election in '64 in November, and Governor Connally says, no, no, no. I'm going to be in another Cadillac, and you can have the senator with you. And Kenny says, no, you're the governor of Texas, John. You're riding with me. So Connally doesn't want to do that. So
Hmm.
Connally's in the front seat, and you got the driver Connally, and you got in the back seat JFK and Jackie, the wife of JFK.
Right.
All right, as they're going along there, fire, there's gunshots, etc. And this is what Connolly says. Now, you say to yourself, who would say it this way? It doesn't make sense. His words were, as he gets shot in the arm, etc., and JFK is getting his brains blown on out, he says, "My God, they're going to kill us all."
Wow.
Does Does that not say that like he has inside information
Yeah, like
and
all of
he
us.
gets hit? Yeah,
Yes.
and okay, the shooting is wild, and I've gotten hit. I'm gonna get eliminated as well too. And to begin with, he didn't want to be
Yeah, to
in the
begin with, right.
Cadillac. Yeah, and then for him to say it instead of saying, "I'm shot," "He's hit,"
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, something like that. God save me or whatever. He's gonna say, "Oh no, they're gonna." Hang on, one moment here.
Sure.
Okay. I guess I'm getting phone calls from I don't know from all over right now. But let me. Well, you can always edit this on out. The sound of
Yes. Yes. Don't
phones
worry
ringing
about
in
it.
the background. Okay. So anyway, so it sounds very very strange that a man would say that. A man wouldn't say that at all.
No, of course, exactly, exactly, like that. That's of all the things you're gonna come. That's gonna come out of your mouth. That would be not really. It's like somebody that thinks, "Hey, I wasn't supposed to. I didn't want to be here, but hey, are they gonna take me out just because maybe I do know what's really happening here?"
Yeah. Yeah, and that's we have that, and then if you go back to the records of Oswald, Oswald barely passed for as far as marksmanship. He had like the lowest
Yeah, I know that.
rating on Records Day when you get your test there in the Marine Corps. Where you're going to be at. And now, again, too, here's this guy. I'm going to say that Oswald was a CIA operative. He was working for the CIA, and um, he defects to the USSR, and then he comes back, and he doesn't get grilled by anybody. And in other words, why does that happen? Because
Yeah,
he's working for the team, and then he
right.
starts to figure things on out. And here's something really wild. The poor Charlie Kirk, the new Captain Kirk that was assassinated. I thought he was going to become like the next Abraham Lincoln. He was
Yeah.
tall enough, and he was speaking things that Abraham Lincoln would have talked about there.
Yep.
They're going to say that the person, the sniper that supposedly killed him, had a 30-06 tucked into his pants. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no way that supposed sniper had a 30-06 in his pant legs. They don't break down that way, and he's had it, assembled. There's no way that you're going to have the guy who's faking it. That he has a limp. There's not an
Right.
06. Yeah, and again, too, that's another one of those stories about them spinning things, and then you have these people who make a lot of money by going with lies like the Grinaldo revolvers. Grinaldo Rivera. He
Yes.
say, "Oh yeah, that's the truth. That's the gospel." These people are will say anything to be part of the company line, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting paid a lot of money
Of
to,
course.
in essence, be yes men.
Yes, that's. But no, there's so many holes in that story too that it's like, come on, come on. And I think that people are very, I don't know, people want to know the truth. And when how's this? Not only are you being lied to, but it's like there's no effort to disguise the lie, which again I think is like, really, you're gonna like, and this is which whether you slice it or dice it, this is the age of the internet. People now have a camera everybody has a camera, okay? So it's like the fact that they're trying to pull one as people are like very I am like, okay, I mean, I could say something, but I won't. Like, in other words, if you're gonna lie to me, at least make it a good lie, but don't lie to this to that where it's insulting. That
Yeah,
like, and we're supposed to believe stuff like that, or the way things are told. Come on.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think a lot of
yeah,
people are like, even the normies that normally don't think about these things are like, are you kidding me? So yes, I think it's very disappointing, and I think a lot of people. How's this? You know how you hear about these people getting black pilled? I think a
hmm
lot of people are, and that's bad because you don't want people to get hopeless. But yeah, I think it's black pilled a lot of people, which is a shame.
right. Well, you have people here, and I meet them here. Santa Fe's a town out of like Louis the 17th. I don't know who was the last one. Louis the 18th, who got the guillotine in Imperial France.
Yes,
Anyway, it's you have the very very wealthy and the very very poor, and the very very wealthy here they either say that they're atheists or they are, gosh, what's the other word? Agnostic,
agnostics.
yes, etc. or they'll and what they've done is, and here's something that I found very interesting. They say that the human or Americans,
Hmm.
and it applies to humanity as well too. But I say it's an American attribute, is that you've got to have something inside of you to believe in. So if you do
Sure.
not believe in God, then
Yes.
something has to fill that
That
void.
that
So
that
is it going to
yes.
be Satanism, etc., or is it going to be another form of just humanism, liberalism,
Hmm.
and I'm going to have as much fun as I can on this world until I die because all there's left for me is the worms, or etc. So you got all these people on over here who become fanatics, and
Hmm.
no, 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 science is God, or this idea of the climate changing, the way that
Right, right, right,
yeah,
right. Exactly. All
that's what
these
it's all
different,
about.
whatever the cause is, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah, and you say to yourself, okay, so you want to go back to the days of the Middle Ages, where this was just, or colonial America, where there's
Feudalism,
just
yeah.
forests, and you because the combustion engine is deadly, and pollution, and you don't know what you're talking about. You
A
people
lot of
could not
them, a lot
survive in
of them
heaven.
really believe that the earth is better off without humans. That's the part that they don't like to talk about.
Right,
They start
but
talking about population control, but in truth, at the end of it, because basically a lot of them, I think, have a latent death wish. They think there should not be humans here, period. That we
well,
heard the
except for themselves,
and
and
even some of them,
yeah,
if some of them, if you take them there, the ones that don't want to keep on, existing within a robot body, some of them, like I said, they some they do want to exist, like you said, like immortality, whether it's through scientific advances or existing within a robotic body. But there's another part of them, Alan, that do have that death wish. They want to die, but they want everybody to die. And the earth, that the earth is better off without any humans. There's a part of them that are like that. All right. Now,
okay,
and I think the problem is, like you said, the cause, whatever their cause is. Let's say 30 years down the road, they realize that was a mistake or that was stupid or what was I thinking? But the thing is this, that they're pushing us. We're going off the side of the cliff along with them. Okay.
hmm,
Because if you want to believe whatever you want to believe or your cause, and then maybe you never do, but let's say you grow older and wiser and you go, that was stupid, or I made a mistake, or I changed my mind, or you wait. Yeah, but what you're doing is the rest of us are getting screwed along with you because of what actions you're taking. And I think that's where the problem comes in, that we're all getting dragged over the precipice with these, I have a word for it, but I won't use it, of these people that, and by the way, that not only do they want things a certain way for themselves, but you're gonna have to be on this on those on the narrow on this you're gonna have to go along with the regimen. You're not
right,
gonna get out.
and yeah, and okay, there are some people that will, we do the bonsai charge, and go off the cliff with the lemmings, but my take on this is that a lot of these people, and this is from this area, los ricos y los pobres,
Mm-hmm.
is that those that have the wealth, the power, that have made the money through the computer business in California, or
Right.
law firms in New York City, etc.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's too many people here, but you people got to be eliminated, not us. And they
All
live
right.
in gated communities, and they are, how do you say, like the French nobility of from the Sun King on to the last one that of France, who
Right.
Louis the 18th, who I guess it was, or 17th, was guillotined, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the Roman nobles there when the empire fell. Okay, no, no, we are superior. You people are nothing,
Yeah, the
and we have the
plebeians.
money to control. Yeah,
No, no, no.
and
Absolutely. But let me tell you something. There's a lot. You say the rich. There's a lot of poor that, for lack of a better word, are envious and lazy. Okay, and they're the ones that they use, if for lack of a better word, as foot soldiers or as fodder, as the ones to do the dirty work. Don't think it's only the rich. There's a lot of poor.
No, no. As far as the soldiers, as far as the hitmen, the hit women,
Yeah,
yeah, you get these. I don't know what you want to call them. Humanals. I mean, they're part human,
yes,
they're part animal. I mean,
yes,
and I see them and they'll protest, and you don't know what the hell you don't know what they're talking
yes.
about,
That if they ask
and
them exactly what they're like, kind of like, yeah,
yeah, I mean, they're like I'd say groupies
yes,
of rock and roll bands of the
mm-hmm,
1960s, but they're attached to this whatever it is, Antifa or
yeah,
other types
whatever,
of
yeah, whatever the flavor of
yeah,
the day is, but in this case, it's that. Yes,
yeah, and you look at them and you try to talk to them and you say, you uh, don't even know basic history,
yes,
and yeah,
yeah. Or find
but
that
they're
country on
they're
the map where, you don't even know geography. Shut up and sit
yeah,
down.
yeah,
But yes, and this is the thing again. Um, Getting back to what we were talking about originally with that, you know, that Aleister Crowley do as that wilt. That's great, as long as the only one that's doing it is you, or you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
My problem is when I've got to suffer the consequences of your actions. All
yeah.
right. And I think a lot of the ones that you see running around now, give them 10, 20, 30 years, and they'll be like, they won't, that fanaticism or that, whatever, that's going to be gone. But then it'll be too late because everybody, and I'm going to use collectively the United States because that's what we're talking about here, will have suffered the consequences.
Yeah, we'll suffer the consequences. But
Yes.
I don't think that okay, there's going to be some people that are going to how do you say, all right, I made a mistake, and I've got wisdom now. I think a lot of these people of are saying, okay, you know what? This is the bargain I made, and I've deluded myself, and I've destroyed my soul, and now I'm totally brainwashed, and I'm going to um, go all the way to death, and be this type of person. Now, I've seen people that are in essence perfectly possessed,
No,
and the
yes.
way that
Most
and
definitely,
and
yes.
here's something that I'm going to say, and it's going to be kind of wild, and your audience is going to disagree with me, but I'm going to say that how a person dies is going to be a reflection of how that person lived,
Hmm.
and a lot of these people that and how they die, the wealth, etc., is and we're just going with the very wealthy, the ones that have the power.
Right.
They do not die well,
I
but they've
know.
made their deal. They got all the pleasures, they got all the travel, they got all the women, all the men, or whatever it is,
Right.
and yeah, and they've hogged the banquet and
Yeah.
pushed people away from it. Yeah, and that's who they are, and these possessed people as the gotten power. Here's something that the only other person I've heard ever say this would be like, or two people like Cus Diamato or Teddy Atlas, but of a person with an evil deed at the end,
Hmm.
they had planned that at the beginning. In other words, what they did at the end was what they planned in the beginning. They had promised you this, they had promised you that, or they said, "I'm going
Right.
to do this, I'm going to do that," and they didn't do it because they knew that was they weren't going to do it. And you see that today with well, I mean, gosh, we're getting back to Hollywood. You get back to leadership. You get back
Hmm.
to uh, uh, corporate leaders. Yeah,
Yes. Well, you know what? I think that, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I doubt it. I think that a lot of the people, if you want to call them foot soldiers or the ones that are doing, they themselves, they're going to get done away with. That they, whatever they're planning, the utopia that they think they're going to live in, their utopia, I mean, according to them, I don't think they're going to be around to enjoy it because those are the ones that they get rid of down the line. It's like, okay,
right.
thanks, but we don't need you anymore. And we realize that maybe you're unstable or you could be a problem to us. So guess what? Next thing you know, they're out with them. Bye. That's
Right.
the way
I
that
mean,
works.
I've read something, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they estimate that 30 million people died of the COVID shot. Now that seems high to me, but maybe there is something to that. And you say to yourself, well, okay, you're going to believe the government about this and about this or that, and trust in me, kind of like not Sarat Khan, but what was the name of Sarat Khan was the tiger in Jungle Book. What's the name of the snake?
Sure. No, no, no. I'm thinking of the tiger. Thinking of, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, trust in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's again too. Come on, America. We got the best system in the world. You got all kinds of opportunities. Yeah, it's rough stuff, but
Ka.
you got
Ka's the name of
opportunity.
the serpent. Ka.
Okay. And yeah, and start thinking and stop going along with these idiotic mandates. Well, we don't have the mandates now, but we did under the Biden administration. And take the shot. Now, here I want to say something because you're going to say, "Oh well, yeah, Alan must be a Republican." No, because I'm going to trash Republicans right now. No, Alan must be a Democrat. No, I'm going to do this. No, no, I'm a patriot. I'm for the Second Amendment, and
Yeah.
I'm for
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. Anyway, here we'll trash. I'll trash the Bushes here. The assassin strikes again. Okay,
Go for
anybody.
it, assassin.
Okay, anybody back then in 1963,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, you know, to a certain age, is going to
Right.
know where they were at when they first heard that the president has been shot, the
Mm-hmm.
president is dead.
Right.
Okay, now when they asked George Bush, this is Father Bush, not Sonny Bush,
Right.
he couldn't remember where he was at. How can he not
Come
remember
on.
when the president? And there is a photo there in Dealey Plaza, and there's a guy that looks just like young Bush, Father Bush there
Mm-hmm.
in Dealey Plaza, and the Bush was up to his neck in cloak and dagger stuff. At one time, he ran the
I
CIA.
was gonna say, wasn't I'm not sure of the years, but I thought that at one point he was running the CIA.
Yeah, he ran the CIA. I think it was what in the late '60s into the early '70s, and
Mm-hmm.
before that, and then you look at his background, and
Oh,
okay,
yes.
okay, Skull and Bones. That's like okay, all kinds of paranormal type of stuff there from Yale, or I say satanic or dark forces type of thing of Skull and Bones.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also his father Prescott. Um, the only Prescott was a senator, and he was trading with the enemy. He had a bunch of oil. He was making money through the Caribbean by fueling U-boats
Okay.
before the USA got into the war and after USA got into the war.
Okay.
But it's going to look very, very bad for them to prosecute him because what he did was he was supposedly the brain trust behind the USO. And the USO used to be a club that you could go into mainly for enlisted men
Mm-hmm.
to go in and there'd be American music, donuts, etc., Coca-Cola.
Right.
Yeah, so you got the guy who invented the USO. You got to put him up on charges for trading with the enemy, and then again too, you go back to Barbara Bush. That's the wife of
Oh, I know where
George
you're
Bush, the
going with
father Bush.
that.
Oh,
Yes.
go ahead. Spill the beans to the audience.
That supposedly certain rumors are that she was Aleister Crowley's daughter.
Right. And you remember, Barbara Bush's mother was a wild woman, and she was
Mm-hmm.
seeing Alistair, who was
Yes.
the number one, how do you say,
The wickedest
satanic
man in the
priest.
world.
Yes. And if you look at Alistair and you look
Yes.
at Barbara, they
Yes.
have the same face.
Yes.
Do you believe in coincidence? I don't.
Not that coincidence. That's like Trudeau and Fidel.
Yes, exactly. And again too, the Trudeau's wife, she was like 30 years younger, 25 years younger
Yeah.
than Pierre,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot what her name was. And
Yep.
yeah, so
Yeah. Exactly. Like,
and again
yeah,
too,
man, you're hoping, but sometimes it's like, hey, man, I don't even need to do a paternity test. I can just look at you
all right,
and
and a satanic theme in the White House. Okay,
hmm.
Bush. Then you have other terrible leaders on in there, be it Biden, Obama, Bush number two.
Mm-hmm.
On and on. I mean, it just these
Yes.
people will make a deal and say what they want about Trump being crude and this kind of stuff. At least he's trying to uh, do something for the American people. And now there's a lot of things I disagree with him on, but one of the things I
Hmm.
say, at least he's not selling us out
Well,
100% as compared to other leaders that have.
I think that I think they've gotten away with what they've gotten away with because I think most Americans are trusting, too trusting. I think it's turned out, and the kind of stuff that's come out. Let's say recently, let's say for example, with the assassination of JFK. Most people would never have believed that. If they would have exposed that back in the 60s, what do you think would have happened, Alan? I don't think most people would have been like, no, no, that's not possible. People
No, I,
really,
I think okay. I'm going to disagree with you on that one, there, Am.
what do you think?
I'm going to say because I think that the Americans were more, how do you say, were smarter back then. And if somebody had come on out, or a few people had come on out, and been able to have uh, a national, gosh, what are you going to say, bully pulpit and explain things that were going on. But right, the networks, the three networks, and I guess you could, yeah, there's ABC, NBC, CBS. They're not going to let that happen. But if you were going to say, look, this is what happened, let's look at the facts and go from there, Americans would say, yeah, I can believe that. Because, we had you you had veterans, and you still have in many ways you have more incompetence in the military today than you had in World War II. But one of
Mm-hmm.
the things I give JFK credit for, and I don't know if I told you this before, and stop me if I've done. I think it was Schlesinger, one of JFK's advisors.
Okay.
Uh, he said, okay, JFK was marooned on an island with some of his crew, PT-109. JFK was in World War II as a PT boat. It
Mm-hmm.
got hit by a Japanese destroyer. Some of the crew got killed, and the survivors made it to this island. They had to live on coconuts and fish and whatever behind Japanese lines. I think it was called Plum Island.
Right.
Anyway, the thing about that is that the hierarchy, the naval staff there at the base says, well, you know what, we went on over there one time. There's no survivors. We saw some wreckage of the PT boat. That's it. They're dead, etc. So on this big map, ho hum, that's the end of those Americans. I mean, and that's what JFK hated when he got into the White House because he knows how these people are. Not all generals are, but there's a number
Mm-hmm.
of them of they're just useless pawns.
Yes.
And hey, we're alive. And JFK had to swim on out night after night after night trying to get help. He never was able to get an American ship to come his way with the lanterns, etc. And so by happenstance or by fate, God, whatever, a native, some natives came to the island and they were friendly, and he was able to send a coconut back. This is who it is, U.S. Navy,
Right.
Kennedy, etc. And then when he got there, different stories, but this one I do believe is he didn't believe it. He did not believe that they thought it was a trap, and so
Okay.
the natives went back and said they don't believe you, and they think we're setting up Americans for a
Wow.
trap. So he had to get into the boat covered with palm leaves, and the natives rowed him across the sea, by oars to another island to get to a coast watcher. Hey, it's real that the crew's on over here, and that's what you've got with a lot of leaders.
Yes.
Look at what happened with Afghanistan or
No.
Vietnam. You see this juicy trail we're going to be going on
Well,
down
you know
here.
what? And
We're going to
I'm gonna tell you what I think. And I
okay,
agree with you, but I'm gonna tell you what I think. Let's say back when JFK, remember we're talking here 63, right?
right.
I think that if somebody would have said, whether it was a politician or a newspaper guy, said, hey, the truth is, we got to say the truth because this is this, I think that he would have been grabbed and they would have said, look, the country cannot take that. In other words, we cannot allow the American public to lose faith in us. I think they would have gone after the patriotic angle and convinced anybody that wanted to go in that direction, even if, let's say, it was some congressman or senator, anybody. Like, hey, we can't do that because what's it going to do to the national morale? Blah, 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 blah. Because I think most people at that point, they were, I'm not going to say blind, but I think there was like that whole machinations that we're talking about behind the scenes and we're going to do it because of this. People were like, I don't think that they did not think there would be the betrayal at that level. How's that? And I
Okay,
think,
you're right about that, but I still think that if somebody had done it properly,
Oh, well,
uh,
yeah,
and given the ballistics and done this, done that, they say, hey, yeah, uh, we had a coup d'état, and
sure,
the government's been taken over by LBJ and these
absolutely.
bad people. But yeah, the Americans were very, very, and they still are, but
Hmm.
they're not. They're back then. It was like a good trusting. Okay,
Yes.
our government has helped us, and we won World War II, or we did this, we did that, and they're on our side. And then now today, it's not that. It's just like, who cares? And as long as I got my iPhone and I got my music and my reefer and my TV or whatever it is, I really don't care. And that's just how dumbed down 50% of the American public is.
Wow. You know what? That again, we come back to the thing is like, you're gonna do that, fine, but I have to. When it gets to the point of I have to suffer consequences because of your action or inaction, that's where I have a problem.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm very much a live and let live kind of person until
Mhm.
we get to that. Until I suffer the consequences of for what you do, then then it's like, okay, that's it. Then forget, and that's the end of the live and let live, theory of life, from Marlene's point of view.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, though, how's this? That's why I'm saying a lot of people, I think, Al, I've gotten black pilled. Instead of waking up and saying, okay, you know what, it's an ugly truth, but it's the truth. Let's deal with it. Some people just say, oh my God, forget it, screw this, and they just turn off and psh, I don't care. We all die. Who cares? And what you were
Yeah.
saying originally, about the vaccines, the COVID vaccines. Think about it. That they were saying about the number. You know what it is? I think, Alan, that it maybe whether it's a couple of years, 3 years, people die. And how's this? On the death certificate, it could say cancer. It could be, whatever the apparent cause of death is. But what precipitated it? That's, I think, where the problem lies.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
never going to put the true, actual reason of that, really what, especially like they've talked now that they have this wave of turbo cancers even among younger adults. You know, I've heard that doctors and even undertakers are finding all these types of weird things going on. But in other words, that wherever they end up, but if you follow it back, there's something that caused this. How's that? I mean, people are going to die. It's not like they don't, or sometimes for weird stuff. But I think as a matter of fact, I believe that how the life insurance industry, they base they're always following the numbers as far as when people die or people get sick or disabled, how sick they are. That they look at these trends because this is how they price their products. They themselves have seen the numbers rise drastically. And there's only one thing that could account for that. How's that?
Yeah.
And it goes
And,
back about 5 years.
and it's a time bomb, and these I'd say self-replicating growths inside a
Yes.
person to
Mm-hmm.
cause a stroke, to cause
Yes.
a heart attack. Where did this come from? It
Right.
came from the shot, and you got some type of organism in it. It's kind of like, I don't know, taking you on over from the inside. And here's something on else here too. This is I uh, you're a New Yorker, right? I mean, not anymore, but you can say this. You know, New Yorkers are well educated, or the upper crust is, and et cetera here. But I've here in Santa Fe here, I. For example, when I was doing a tour doing tours during COVID-19 during the mask era,
Right.
and I there's okay, you don't wear a mask, you can't come on in here, and this kind of stuff. So here I am by this very, very wealthy enclave,
Right.
and it's called El Castillo. I'll give the name on it. So yeah, they're very, very wealthy there in their golden years. They go on in, they're coming out feet first, and these people, have enough money to air condition hell. I mean, they're just
Right.
wealthy. Okay, so I'm taking my tour down this area. It's haunted. It has different names: Blair Witch Path, Spook Lane, etc. It's right next to this area there. And we get these people with masks on over there, and they'll, we're not wearing masks.
Yeah, you're
We're out in the
outside for
middle
the
of
love of
nowhere.
Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like this
Yeah, I
one
know, I
lady
know, I know
with
where
a
you're
New
going.
York accent, mask, 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 and she, goes gets a police officer to come on over to harass. I say, hey, you know what? Uh, I'm not going to wear a mask. That's all there is to it. And okay, if I got to go into a place and it's somebody's business, and okay, and they say I got to wear it, okay, that's your business. You can do it. I can choose not to go on in, or I can wear a mask and put one on in there. So at post office, I'm going to have to wear one because I need my mail.
Right.
But yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But all this other stuff of these people thinking that out in the middle of nowhere, how brainwashed they are. They're in
Mm-hmm.
their car and they're driving along and they're wearing this mouth diaper. It just doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah. No, I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes I laugh because every once in a while I go to off to these concerts and you see somebody with a mask. I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing here? If you really think, if you're that concerned, why would you come to a crowded venue full of strangers and wear a mask? If this is what you really believe, I wouldn't come here. Not for love or money, but you see them there with a stupid mask on. It's like go home, go home. You dumbass. Why
Yeah,
would you come to a place where hundreds or thousands of people are at? That let's say when you sit down, everybody's sitting real close together, and it's like yeah, there's something there sometimes in the mental processes that I don't know. Something doesn't
the
connect. Like
yeah they get the Darwin Award
yeah,
for okay.
yeah, that's the right word for it.
And you say to yourself, well, if they are this uh, disconnected or this stupid or whatever you want to call it, ignorant, and I don't want to say ignorant, it's stupidity.
Well, no, but
Well,
I'm
then I
saying if
guess
you really genuinely have that concern, again, this is where, you do whatever, I wouldn't, if I really thought that there was some type of contagion or I had some health problem, I wouldn't go to a place like a concert. Forget it. I'd be like, no, man, I can't go there. But they do.
yeah. And then you look at a supermarket. Okay, people moving meat left and right. I want this cut, or I want that. Let me look at this, or I want some fruit. Okay, so people are touching all this kind of stuff, and they're wearing the mask, but you're touching what other people have touched.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. And you say to
Hmm.
yourself, okay, if these people are going to be wearing masks like that, okay, pick out the very very wealthy ones.
Well, no,
and,
you know what?
then go sell them something that is idiotic, but they'll go for it. Okay, I got some magic pills that are going to add 20 years to your life.
Yes, right. And it's like, okay, let me tell you something. I'm sure there's a lot of I'm not going to say all. I'm not going to say all, but there's, I think, a lot of people that within the last 5 years have regretted certain things that they did or said or put in their body because they've realized let's put it this way. It's not that they've died, but they've had some type of health, what's the word I'm looking for? Some type of, where everything goes wrong in your body kind of deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they might not admit it, they might not talk about it, but they know this happened to me after I took the shot. And they might not talk
Yeah.
about it because maybe they were giving grief to others around them. And then their health has gone downhill after that.
Right. And then the Lord of the Flies aspect of this is,
Oh,
and this is what really got me angry there in Santa Fe, is because I say we have a lot of people that are transplants who have come from Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York to the city here.
oh,
Okay, so they moved out the old Latino, the old Anglo-Saxon
mm-hmm.
pioneer families on over here. Okay, so I'm doing a tour, walking on there, and I'll hear somebody yell on out, really mean, put on your mask or this kind of thing here. And I look at all these other people. And I think to myself, this is Vichy France type of people. These
Yes.
are the collaborators
Oh,
with the
yes.
Gestapo, with the Nazis, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yep, yep, yep. That they're always looking to score brownie points
uh-huh,
by they're snitches. They're snitches. And yes, and they thrive on that, by the way.
yeah,
It feeds their soul on some level.
Yeah.
That is if they have
There
a.
was this. There's one guy. He looked kind of like Race Bannon of the old Johnny Quest crew.
Yes.
Johnny Quest came on TV primetime back in '64, and a great cartoon. They
That was my
show it,
that
I
was my
guess.
favorite cartoon. That's my favorite
Okay,
cartoon.
yeah, and they showed it in reruns. Anyway, he came on up and he was in a nice vehicle. He yelled on out to my, and I guess I was in a really bad mood that day, or he got me into a bad mood. And I'm doing a tour, and I got so damn angry at him that I went out running on up the sidewalk, and he saw me because he was in his car, and he had to peel on out because I was going to drag him on out of the car.
It was like, come
You
here.
got something to say? Okay, say
Yeah,
yeah, and
exactly.
yeah. That's the ferocity of some of these people with their
Yes.
voice of trying to be I'm better than you. I order you put on your mask.
Yes, because I'm the one that's running. Anyway, before we finish up, Alan, one thing I did want to mention, I don't know if you heard of this. You heard that two National Guardsmen got shot out by the White House tonight, earlier today, right?
Vaguely, all I heard was that two were down.
Yes.
I don't know.
And they've
Yeah.
done a preliminary identification of the person, of the man that did it. He's an Afghan national.
Hmm.
And I don't know which way this is going to go, but I feel so bad when I heard that because supposedly they were both shot in the head, point blank range. And
Wow.
they're in critical condition. Hopefully, I don't, you know, even if they survive, you think, okay, they're gonna, the repercussions on that type of injury is never good, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm like thinking to myself, what is this? What is going on? I'm telling you, that's the part that I talk about. Like everybody's going over the side of the precipice, whether you're on. It's like, no, this is not good. This is not good at all. Not at all. This was,
No, not at all. I hope that this is not the beginning of a false flag type of event.
yes, it could be.
And
It could be.
yeah, but then again too, I mean, if this guy is one of these radicalized people that uh, Biden, well, Bush, Obama let on in here. I
Well,
mean, then
that's the
okay,
thing.
the if we have now the chickens are coming home to roost, quoting Malcolm X, and you say to yourself, and here's the idiotic thing, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but
Mm-hmm.
I was just in California, and they have the strictest gun laws in the USA. You say, well, what happened to the Constitution? What happens if somebody comes on up after me? I mean, and he the bad guy is going
Mm-hmm.
to have a weapon. The good guy is going to be defenseless. And the thing about the Second Amendment, it's very, very simple. Only slaves give up their weapons.
Oh, hell
You look what
yeah.
happened with the Third Reich. You look what happened with Fidel's Cuba. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, on and on.
Oh
When the
no, no. Let me
populace.
tell you something. Look at what. Let me tell you something. I, you know that over here in Florida, they have now the open carry. I mean, I've always had a concealed weapons permit,
Hmm.
but now in Florida, not too long ago, they have open carry, and when I look at all these demonstrations in Ireland and UK and Europe, and it's like, you guys are toast, to put it bluntly,
Right.
because you're all unarmed. You can march all you want, and you can wave all the flags, and you can get out there. "Ah!" Don't matter. You guys are toast because you're unarmed.
Yeah.
That's to put it brutally. That's what it comes down to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, who's going to win when the bad guys have a Kalishnikov and you've got a your fist or a
What are you gonna do?
chair leg?
Throw a
Yeah,
rock? Whoa.
yeah,
Yeah. Who cares? You know.
yeah,
That that's
yeah.
that's that that's the way it's gonna. That
Or
yeah.
if you have the bad guys in the police department
Oh yeah.
and they're armed and they're following, yeah, it's yeah, same thing again here. One of the things is and I get this really angry about this is we got a lot of liberals and all this talk about World War II and
Mhm.
concentration camps and it's just not the Jews that got killed in World War II and we call it
Yes.
the Holocaust. I mean, I lost relatives, my father's generation
Mhm.
in World War II as well too. They were killed in combat. But the point being about this is they're always going to say about look how bad this is and this kind of stuff. So, yeah, well look what happened in the Third Reich. 1933 comes along and the laws are you got to give up your weapons. So again, too, getting back to
Yes.
that point here, when they come to round you on up here,
Mhm.
you got a frying pan and they got a Luger or a
Yeah. That's
Schmeiser
it.
or a
That's like that.
Mauser.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Right. Right. That's like yeah. What is it? Bring a knife to a gunfight kind of deal. It's like.
yeah. I say, haven't you learned your history?
Mhm.
Be you want to be victimized? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
That's why
and
whenever I see this thing, I was like, no, 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 no. And it's unfortunate. People, you would wish that everybody would behave, but that's not human nature, and it never has, and I don't think it never will be.
that's
So
right.
it won't. I mean, wishful thinking, it is what it is, but now human beings, there's always going to be the SOBs in the crowd that are not going to behave. So guess what?
Yeah,
Unless they're
and
truly crazy, that there's people, like I tell them, they're not pretend crazy. They're real crazy. That they don't care about consequences. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's always
right.
those in the crowd. But they're the other ones that, you know what? If you think you're going to go, let's say, into some type of either a church or a supermarket or whatever, and do some crazy, and people are armed there, you're going to think good and hard about it. Real good and hard.
Yeah,
Oh?
and at least you want a chance. And here's something else here too about these shootings. We talked about a little bit about Crooks and about
Mm-hmm.
how all his background's been covered up. Same thing with the shooter there in Connecticut.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, again too. What was that guy about? Mind control, etc. Same thing with the shooter there in Colorado who went
Yes.
into a movie theater here. All
Yes.
of their background is
Yes.
covered on up.
Yes.
Some of these people, their parents are involved in all kinds of how
Mm-hmm.
to say like mind control type of things that are departments that the government uses. Uh,
Even
yeah,
even
uh,
do you remember the one that he went in there and he was it Detroit, the one that he shot up the church that the children were going into church? It was like right at the beginning of the school year.
I don't know about that one. Go ahead.
No, the same thing. The dad, it's like this real weird background, familial history. It's like, hey, you know what? There's something going on here. All right, and apparently at one point, he the mom had worked, I believe, in the school office for many years, but she had retired. As a matter of fact, she lives in Florida. The parents are divorced, and he had attended the school at some point. All right, but then you think, where, who did what to you, or where did you start deciding that you're against, let's say, the religion, and you're going to shoot other children as a way to what? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's the part that we talk about. Like, is it mental illness? But no, but is it brainwashing? What is it? What
yeah.
what
Who
happened?
programmed them? Who
Right.
programmed them to do that? And again, too, this is gonna, and we don't have time to do this, but another. Okay. Zodiac. I'm going to
Yes.
say that the Zodiac killer just wasn't one killer. It
Yes.
was a number of killers, and it was all part of MK Ultra to see how good we can do with assassins. Put them on out there and program them and see what's going to happen. And that's Zodiac for our listeners. That was a serial killer in Northern California, perhaps even Southern California. There's some murders there that could have been part of the Zodiac incident. In other words, kind of like a offshoot of the Phoenix program of
Mm-hmm.
getting people to go and raise bloody hell in Vietnam and killing out different people, etc. And again, CIA backed. And I wasn't the Satanist Aquino
Yes.
attached to
Yeah.
the he
Yes.
was a
Michael
colonel in
Aquino.
special force. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, too, again, you have all of this darkness attached to
Mm-hmm.
these type problems. And I'm going to go even farther than this. I'm going to say that Charlie Manson, and he was here in Santa Fe back in the 1960s, and of course people say, oh, no, no, well, that's a different story. But I'm going to say that he ended on up. He was part of MK Ultra, but he was so brilliant, and he was able to cut those cables of control of MK Ultra
Mm-hmm.
and he was able to, how to say, in other words, freelance to a degree of what happened. But if you read Bujalosi's book, etc.,
Right.
it's going to be great science fiction. It's a great read, but that's not really what happened.
Right. That's what I've heard. That yeah, it's interesting, but not really accurate.
Yeah, yeah. And again, too, it's like other types of things. Come on, people, use your mind. Do people really work this way? Is this type of circumstances that could happen here? For example, what is it, neighborhood of Las Feliz.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, and I'm familiar with that neighborhood in Los Angeles, Los Angeles, is
Mm-hmm.
that that's going to be attorneys, doctors, owners of businesses here, and you're going to tell me that these frustrated women back in the 1960s who are taking a bunch of pills, who can't go to sleep, they're in their 40s and their 50s, etc., and they're not happy in their marriage, and always looking at the window at past midnight with the they're not going to see a group of shaggy, really grungy
Right, that don't
hippies.
belong in that neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense of how they came in, how they exited the neighborhood. All these
Right,
kind of scenes about what
right.
happened there. Yeah.
Why don't you well, you hear a lot of it also that there was a drug trade. They want to make it sound like, hey, that the Manson family just happened to pick them, but from what I understand, there was a drug that they were Manson was supplying them with the drugs. Part of it was that there was a lot of drugs involved in the background.
Right. Well, Roman Polanski, his best friend, the guy that was killed there at the Tate, who was named Freitag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one of the conduit of bringing drugs on in from
Right.
Canada into the USA. And Sebring, Jay Sebring,
Mm-hmm.
the stylist to the stars,
Right.
he was the master with the clippers. He was the Candyman to the stars. Okay, so wholesale, retail, and yeah,
Yeah, what
and
people don't
there's
understand is if you're a celebrity or you got all the money, you're not gonna go slumming down to go get some drugs. You had people bring it to you.
yeah, well, there's a few exceptions, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I know, but
absolutely right.
overall,
Yeah.
it was like, hey, just bring me this and bring me that, and uh, from what I understand, part of the attraction was Charles Manson wanted it all the time. He wanted to stay at the parties. He wanted to be part of that crowd. And like, what was it that you were saying? The elitist mindset was, no, 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 Charlie, no. You bring us drugs and this and that, but you gotta go away, go away. And that's I think part of where he wasn't a happy camper about that. It's,
Well, yeah, yeah, kind of. But anyway, I mean, Terry Melcher, the son of Doris Day,
mm-hmm,
he lied like hell on the witness stand, and I mean, there's I only met Charlie one time, and it was just
mm-hmm,
no, 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 no. He was there at the Spawn Ranch, and there's so much.
yes.
It's like the actresses that hung around Mick Jagger that were you know, satanic. That film, what was it called? Something Rising, and the guy that was in the Manson family, he's in that film there. And there's all. It's amazing. All of these strands that link from darkness to other to these characters there, and as far as we going back to Sharon Tate and
Mm-hmm.
Roman Polanski, we I think we talked about this, but for the audience, go back into the Eye of the Needle, another movie that's going to have satanic themes that Polanski was involved in, that Sharon Tate was on in, and supposedly Sharon Tate and was how to say a member of the temple of what was it, Temple of Set, and
Exactly.
yeah, etc. So yeah, these are not how do you say Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts of the 1960s. These are people that are
Well,
opportunists. They're going to be making money and will do whatever it takes. And of course, what's really interesting is all those films that were confiscated that we don't know about. And the excuse is, well, Roman took some films of his wife that were, how to say, blue films. Well, supposedly there's a lot more to that of different characters with what's going on there. So who knows what other stars are in that film library that the police took
right.
and destroyed.
And this is the thing. If you look at it, all of a sudden they went from producing movies like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and The Sound of Music, and all of a sudden all these films came out that were like, holy crap! That the theme went, like you said, so dark. All right.
Yeah. Well, from 1971. Well, let's start. I'm going to say, okay, officially from 1971, from February. Well, but we can go from, okay, from November 70, etc. onward.
Mm-hmm.
You look at TV films and how these started getting much darker with satanic themes, murderous type of themes
Yes.
all disguised in them here. And instead of having a wholesome type of stuff, you have all this garbage in there that is being digested by the American film audience because again they're trusting, they're watching TV, but they're getting polluted with
Well,
well,
you know what also you saw? The earlier horror films, Alan, let's say that we'll use the vampire. But anything like that, usually Peter Cushing runs in there with a crucifix and that's it,
to
you
save the
know?
day. Yes.
And that was like the power of God, whatever, holiness, that was it. The vampire's like, oh no, you know? Then as they started doing horror movies, all of a sudden the the power of whether you want to call it God or holiness was like went by the wayside, okay? And either the solution was found like you in other words, the person figured it out somehow, but it had nothing to do with the aid of God. Or let's say, for example, remember when The Exorcist came out, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, of course, there's Exorcist, but at the end of the movie, the demon goes into Father Damien.
Right.
So, in other words, it's not that you could say, well, they vanquished the demon, but not really, all right? Because the older Exorcist guy, the one placed by Von Sydow or Cito, he dies. He has a heart attack and he dies. And then, oh, okay, the only way they can get rid of this demon is by basically saying, "Come into me." So, in other words, it wasn't really a triumph of God. It was like, eh. So you saw that same thing with the Omen, the Omen movies, same thing.
Hmm.
The Antichrist has more power than anybody. You know, people get killed. Um, even the dad. You remember? I don't know if you remember in the Omen that they had that that order of priests out of Italy that knew he was the Antichrist and were trying to kill him. They themselves, in other words, the power of God has nothing against the Antichrist.
Right.
And you saw that in all the movies as they came out with whether, like I said, it was a vampire or anything, a cult or anything. Somehow or other, the power of God just like lessened and lessened. Like it wasn't the solution, or God didn't do the trick. And you saw that before that wasn't the case. Even when they did those, even the B horror movies, no, it changed. And that all
Right.
happened. I want to say, like you said, it kind of like developed along into the 60s, from the late 60s and like you said into the 70s, and from there you go on with that. That's when you saw that shift. Same thing with Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
What was at the end of the story? Who won?
Right.
You know. And I'm thinking to myself, when Anton LaVey came out and established the Church of Satan, do you think he would have gotten away with that 10 years before? I don't think so. I mean, I think that
I
the
think he would have had
climate
to
was
been
there.
he would have had to be more underground like what you were doing before
Oh no, no, no.
with
What I'm saying is no. I'm not saying that it didn't exist. I'm saying that for him to come out openly and establish this Church of Satan and all this crap, the timing was everything. I think 10 years before, it was like no, not that it didn't exist, but that open like I'm going to establish a church, and you had Sammy Davis Jr. becoming a Satanist and all that. It was like come on.
right. Yeah. And with Sammy Davis Jr., the reason how come he had his one of his fingernails painted red
No,
for that was how to say the signature, the emblem of why he did that because he was part of Anton LaVey's um, well stable.
really.
Yeah. No, Sammy Davis Jr. And you look at suppose okay again to we're going to say, oh, Alan, you're getting all these stories from behind the camera. Well, I know a lot of people, yeah. And okay, mentiras, la verdad. Okay, here's the story about Sammy Davis Jr. that he
Okay.
ended on up becoming a Satanist, and he was
Right.
all into how to say hedonism, etc.
Right.
And he used to paint his pinky red color, or his nail red
Right.
fingernail. And if you look at what he did and how he lived and how his life unfolded badly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he make a deal, etc. And also, you've heard on the internet, uh, what's his name, Eddie Murphy, talking about his uh, conversation with Sammy Davis Jr. You've heard that one,
No, I
correct?
have not.
Okay, well, they're driving along, and he's Eddie Murphy's relating something about what Sammy Davis Jr. said, and he says, Eddie, Satan is just as strong as God.
Mm.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy says, what?
Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when we say what Sammy Davis could do, well, I don't know. Anyway, so the thing about that, that's what he's doing. And then you look at how he died. He died from the burning up from the inside out. He died of lung cancer. When you die of lung
right.
cancer, you're on fire from the lungs on out.
Right.
And you say, well, what kind of deal is that? And getting into more of those type of deals about what's going on. You've heard
Yes.
about Rebel Without a Cause,
James Dean, Jimmy Dean. Yes.
but
That,
but 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 all the deals that
no,
the
that
rest of them
part I
made.
didn't. No, I did not know about that. What happened
Okay,
with him?
Okay, well, James Dean supposedly made a deal with the evil one
Mm-hmm.
so that he could become famous
Right.
and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so he dies a very young age, and he wanted immortality,
You got it.
and yeah, he got it, yeah, and he dies in this really freak car accident
Mm-hmm.
there in California with in the Porsche with and only his mechanic survives who was riding shotgun. Okay, on that film set, I think the film was directed by Nicholas Ray, and he was with these other young actors, and what was her name? Vampira. This
Mm-hmm.
is Vampira predates Elvira.
Yes.
Vampira used to be on go to what is it? What's his name? Wood movie. She's in some of those movies. Plan 9 from Outer Space, etc. Okay, uh, Swedish.
Right. And Mila Nurmi is her name.
Yeah, she is a
Finnish
vampire.
American
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and very statuesque.
Right,
So
but she
anyway,
was using that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That.
and she was says that James Stewart really knew his stuff when it came to the occult, and other actors mentioned that too. But anyway, on that movie set, supposedly they made deals on over here. When you look at the ending of these actors, okay. So James Dean wanted immortality, so he got immortality, and he got the jacket with the collar on up look. Okay, then there is Natalie Wood. Okay, Natalie Wood wants to make a deal, and she is okay. I want this, I want that, for stardom, etc. She
right.
gets it, but the deal is that she's gonna die. And how does she die? She dies in the most frightening way to her is that way of drowning. And of course, she almost drowned as a kid actor in this one film where there's a storm and she gets stuck in some timber by the bridge, etc., as the water is running. And another time she almost drowns in a swimming pool. So the most worst way of dying, she dies there in California, etc. It's
Yes.
controversial with R.J. Robert Wagner. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Sal Mineo. He wants pleasure. He wants all kinds of carnal knowledge, etc. Or he gets it, but then he's what is it? He doesn't want to die from stab wounds, etc. And he dies. Now the thing about how he dies, how he's stabbed, they're going to say that they got the guy who killed him was
Mm-hmm.
some black guy from who claimed that he did it in some prison there. But the witnesses say that the guy that stabbed him wasn't black; he was white. And was he
Right.
wearing some type of black robe or whatever? Or was he, came to stab him in the garage there? Okay, he dies there. Then there's was it Nick Adams who wants
Nick
all
Adams,
kinds
he's
of
another one that, yeah, that
yeah, he's in that film, and he wanted an Academy Award nomination. He thought that's going to get him. So he gets the deal, and then when he dies, they find him dead against the wall in his bedroom,
hmm
looking like in awe or grimacing with like a finger trying to point at something. How did he die at such a young age? And then Nicholas Ray, I think he dies of he was having an affair with Natalie Wood when Natalie Wood was still a teenager, and supposedly that's how she got the role. Natalie Wood was a great actress as a teenager, but
right.
it'd be statutory rape, and she gets the role, and then he ends on up getting, in essence, thrown out of filmdom, and he dies a miserable death.
Right, right,
So I
right. As a
mean,
matter of fact, wasn't James Dean and Nick Adams, weren't they friends also?
I don't know about that. I
I
don't
believe they
know
were.
if they were. Yeah.
I believe they were. And
So
yeah,
yes,
that it was like really weird. All these young upcoming actors, all of a sudden they like meet this abrupt and
yeah,
horrible
way
end.
before their time. But it's they
Yes,
said, well, you you'll get this if it's a cosmic credit card. You're gonna have to pay me and pay me big, and that's not worth it, people. Yeah,
yeah, of course. Or they don't
yeah,
think it's gonna happen. It's like I believe in it, but I really don't believe in it. Like I want to make the deal, but in the back of their mind, like, nah, this is not gonna, nothing's gonna come of this. Nothing bad, how's that, is gonna come of this. And then they find out
you're
wrong.
very very right. I knew this hedonist, very very wealthy guy. I'm not gonna say his name on the air. He's dead now, but I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. His the evil in him, the demonic energy in him, tricked him. Oh no no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to.
Right,
I'm going to live and I'm going to have good health. I'm this is that and no 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 and what he did believe in versus consequences he doesn't believe in anymore, and he became more and more powerful and more greedy, and then he dies a terrible death. Like you say, some people can um, well uh, outsmart themselves.
right, right. Yeah, it's convenient for me to believe in it when I want to acquire something, but then I'll be like, nah, this is not. No, that part about like that they what was it, that the devil comes to collect kind of deal. Nah, come on, that's just superstition. So that's
Yeah.
the part that, yeah, it's an inconvenient truth, but yeah, yeah, it is. Anyway, Alan, it has been wonderful to speak to you. You got to come back again because we got to keep this conversation going.
Yeah, and we got to go into some more, a lot more
Yep.
Santa Fe. What's hidden
Yes.
in plain sight on over here, and
Yes.
and I know about a surprise come this spring or this summer, and
Yes,
we'll
I was
save
gonna
it on the
say I don't
topic
know if to
then.
say something because I know you're not supposed to talk about it, but that yes,
But we'll still talk about something very interesting then,
yes,
and go from there. So be safe, and everybody listening, be safe, and it's the holidays, and people well, I don't know when this is going to be put out there, but this applies to any time of the year, but especially during the holidays, people get depressed or whatever,
oh
and
yeah,
remember that's just evil getting to you. I mean, if you got
absolutely,
problems with alcohol, with drugs, whatever it is, get help. Get the right kind of help, man. Don't do something idiotic, stupid, and end
yes,
your life. Get
yes,
help.
yes. I do agree with that, and I think a lot
Okay,
of
so
people.
everybody, God bless you, everybody, and have a wonderful night or whenever you listen to this. And
You,
remember, when you're in Santa Fe, look up the eccentric. Well, no, look up the assassin
the assassin. By the way,
from my
for the
tour.
podcast listeners, Alan, what's your website where they can find
Oh,
you
my
at?
website. Yes, it's Santa Fe Ghost and History Tours,
Mm-hmm.
and it's over 500 pages. You're going to find all kinds of information on
Yes.
tours and stuff of missing UFO, conspiracy, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I lead private tours, paranormal tours. I also do history tours. I'm also a keynote speaker, and yeah, I'll be doing a podcast. Hopefully, I'll start on that around January. So
Okay.
you can listen to me, and I don't have a title for it then, but look up Al Pacheco or Allan Pacheco, and you'll be intrigued.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving, Alan.
You too, my dear. Happy Thanksgiving, and all the best to you.
Likewise.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.
There we go. So, what do you think? He's great. He's I could talk. And that's the thing. I could talk to Alan for hours and hours because he's got so many great stories. And the thing is, he really knows the skinny on stuff. Not like the stuff that you see either in the newspapers or if it's the history, the especially the Hollywood stuff, which I think is super interesting because, you, even that story that I was reading about at the beginning about this Patterson's writing a book about, you know, Marilyn Monroe, which I think everybody and their cousin has written a book about it, some version of whatever, whether it was she wasn't assassinated, she died, she suicide, whatever. Okay. You think, okay. But there's always, and supposedly they're saying, okay, I'm going to include something in here that nobody else has. I don't know, but then, like, again, then you get somebody who's behind the scenes that um, really knows, either was there or knows somebody that was there. And I guess my point being that some of these, whether it's something like a celebrity or maybe what happened with JFK or some other things, as more time goes by, anybody that was knew of or was related or involved, even secondhand, they die. People die. So in other words, because let's face it, 9 times out of 10, your best sources are going to be speaking to somebody, being interviewing, even if they require anonymity, by somebody that either was there or they knew, like, hey, my husband, my wife, or I was there, that was my neighbor. It's something that can tell you that this is where you learn the stuff that you're never going to learn anywhere else. All right. But then as time goes by, the more years go by from that incident, whatever it is, that's it. All those sources, those firsthand sources, are gone. My point being that a lot of times what people know or saw, they never write it down. They never, and sometimes they don't even talk to anybody. So in other words, once they're gone, that information is gone with them. And I think sometimes most people think nowadays, where everybody is, especially that everybody wants to take a picture or video, whatever they're eating or whatever. Everybody's up. Their book, their life is like a book or whatever. Everybody thinks that everybody's like that. No, there's a good portion of people that they don't talk about certain things that they know or they've seen. Especially, I want to say, in the older generation, and even now, but in the older generation, there's they how's this? Depending also on what it is that they know, they just don't disclose it. They don't talk about it. They don't film it. They don't get interviewed. They don't. They just keep quiet about it. And I think that idea was, which I think started with the reality shows, where everybody talks about everything and everything is there. No mystery. I'll talk about anything. I'll talk. People are so used to it that they sometimes generalize and think that a lot of people, especially if you know something, some story about an incident or a person or whatever, that you're gonna blob it, or you're gonna go on TikTok and mm-mm. I think there's a bunch of people that don't go down that road for whatever. Either one, they're just not comfortable with it because of their personality. Depending, yeah, it's like not my thing. All right, or they think nobody's gonna believe me and I'm gonna be there, especially if it's something out there that maybe it's not known. They're gonna say I'm gonna be called a liar, and or I might even be called crazy. All right, depending again what it is that they know. And then you get the ones where they believe at some, maybe accurately or inaccurately, they believe that what they know could put them in some type of danger. And you think, well, you never know. People sometimes are witness to things that some maybe even they wish they hadn't seen it or become aware of it, but somehow, what is it, the wrong, whether you want to call it the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong, whatever. But they're there, they see it. They just, depending on what it is, part of them are like, man, if I talk about this. In other words, they are the type of person that understands that the only way to keep something a secret is not to tell anybody. That's the truth. You want a secret? Don't tell anybody. Nobody. That's how you keep a secret. So there's people out there that understand that rule very, very well. And that's why I'm saying all these incidents that as time goes by, all the people that were there, that were alive, even if they were kids around when this happened, they're gone. That first-hand account is gone. And yeah, sometimes you'll get a family member say, you know what? When I was growing up, my grandma or my aunt told me that they said, that's good. It's not bad. It's not a bad source, but there's nothing like the first-hand experience. You know, I'm going to give you a perfect example. Let's say what happened with the 9/11 that me and Alan were talking about. Depending on your age, you know, how's this? If if you were a kid, yeah, you could understand it. Let's say like when JFK and you were a child, you were alive, but technically you really didn't understand what happened. You weren't aware of it. How's that? In your world, it didn't matter. But same thing with what happened in 9/11. Unless you're a little kid, maybe you saw people getting upset. But my point being that an adult really would be able to capture what happened, even if you were a young adult. But eventually, everybody that was around that saw, even though, yes, they have films and they have videos and whatever, everybody will eventually be gone. As far as what they saw, what they experienced, let me tell you something. And I was there. I mean, even though I was in South Florida, when that happened, nobody knew at that point were there going to be any more attacks. Was somebody attacking major cities in the United States? Believe it or not, that was a concern that people were wigging out so totally that everybody was thinking, are they going to attack any other city? What's going to go on? Yeah, and you look back now 20 years and you can say, but no, back then. And I'm saying is all the people that have the stories or that saw certain things, like even though, I don't discount Alan's theory about the babushka lady, the one in the JFK assassination, who they've never been able to identify and supposedly she's never come forward. Yes, he might be absolutely right, and it's true. The lady is kind of like stout, but let's go on the version that she really was the babushka lady. Like she really was a lady that just happened to be standing there and saw something. And she said, nah, not going to talk about it. Not going to say, hey, I have a picture of maybe somebody that was back there shooting. That, yeah, somebody that said, no, I'm not, you know what? Let me get the hell out of Dodge. And I'm never going to come forward. And in other words, how's this? Maybe somebody that had been alive long enough to become a little bit cynical. In other words, that maybe some other person would say, for patriotic reasons, I'm going to come forward and say, this is what I saw, or this is what I photographed, or what I filmed, or whatever. This person might have known enough about human nature or thought, if they can kill the President of the United States, what are they going to do to me? And she said, well, mm. So again, as time goes by, all the people that could be around to give the version of what it was like to live during that event, whether they lived it or they saw or they witnessed or they heard certain things, even stuff that maybe didn't ever hit the news, they're gone. Those stories are gone. Anyway, coming back to the original point, which is why I like to talk to Alan, because he fills me in on a lot of these things that, don't are not usually common knowledge, even about some of these older events. All right, like when we were talking about the Black Dahlia, things of that nature. Um, that there's always, and how's this? That you look at a lot of these events, whether it's political or true crime or just other things, that sometimes I think these things happen or because people don't want to see the dark underbelly of society. sometimes. Or when I say society, it could, whether, like I said, the true, the crime, the true crime, or even political stuff that us normies, I consider myself a normie, this is beyond your scope of everyday reality to believe that this actually goes on all the time, mostly hidden. And you're like, what? In other words, and how's this? Um, that all of a sudden, and even then, well, let's say let's go with a version of a crime, a true crime kind of scenario. That if somebody ever really goes deep into it, there's like this is not an isolated incident. I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. I think a lot of people just say, you know what, this is beyond me. No, this can't be happening all the time, because then what happens is that you go into questioning, what does law enforcement know about it? What have they done about it, or what haven't they done about it? How much are they aware? And then that's a whole nother you know dark road to go down. But anyway, guys, I'm coming. This has been a really, really long interview, so chances are I'm going to split it up into two episodes because, nope, I don't think this is going to be a really long interview. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of my audience. Sign up for my newsletter, and I will be back next week with a lot of interesting guests. Till next time, take care.